Y'all enjoyed the last one, so I'm bringing you some more. And I gotta say, I have found some delicious recipes in these little books. I might just have to make this a series. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 3 Southern church cookbook recipes that y'all are gonna love. Okay y'all, let's get started. I seen this creamed chicken and I thought I'd give it a try. And here's the recipe just in case you want to screenshot it. Oh, and I had everything on hand to make it except the 2 tablespoons of diced pimentos. But I did have a red bell pepper in the refrigerator, so I diced up about 1/3 of that. And I sauteed it in a large skillet with about a tablespoon of butter until it was nice and tender. And I did dice it up pretty small. Now, after that softens up a good bit, you can go ahead and add in 4 tablespoons of butter or margarine. Let that melt and then go ahead and sprinkle in 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Now whisk this constantly and let it cook over medium heat for a few minutes until all that flour taste is cooked out. Now to season it, I'm doing 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon powder, but you can also use the cubes. Now you're going to slowly whisk in 1 cup of chicken broth, and just make sure you keep stirring, that way your gravy won't get clumpy. You want to stir it until it's smooth. Now you can go ahead and add in 1 cup of half and half. And same thing here, add this a little at a time while you continue to whisk. And you'll want to let this simmer until it thickens. Now this was not in the recipe, but I added some garlic powder, pepper, dried parsley, and a tiny bit of onion powder. And you can really season this up however you want to. Now we're almost done here. All you gotta do is add in 1 small can of sliced mushrooms, and those are drained, and 4 cups of cooked shredded chicken, or you can dice it. Now just give all this a really good stir, and then this creamed chicken is ready to serve. Oh, and if it ends up being a little too thick for you, all you gotta do is thin it out with some milk. Oh, and to serve this, I just threw some of those frozen Tbsp biscuits in the oven, and I let them cook up, and then I opened them up and just served the creamed chicken on top of those. But you could also serve this over some toast, or maybe some white rice, or even some pasta. And I have to say, this was so quick and easy to make, but it was delicious. And it's perfect to make if you're craving some delicious comfort food. It'll fill you up and everyone is gonna love it. This was definitely a winner. You'll have to let me know if you've ever heard of it. Alright y'all, we're making a chocolate pound cake. I think just about every one of the church cookbooks has a recipe for chocolate pound cake in it, so I just had to pick one and go with it. And I probably picked this one because it had a frosting recipe, so I jumped all over it. We're going to start out by mixing up the dry ingredients first. So to a medium-sized bowl, you're going to add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup of the Hershey's cocoa powder, and I did use the special dark, just because it has a little bit of a stronger chocolate flavor. And you do want to sift it because that cocoa powder can tend to be lumpy. Then you're going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and I did sift that too, followed by 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Then you're going to whisk that and set it aside. Now over to my stand mixer, you're going to add 2 sticks of butter or margarine, softened, and 1/2 cup of Crisco. Then we're going to sweeten it up with 3 cups of sugar. I know that's a lot, but that is typical for a pound cake. And I'm just creaming this together until it's good and well combined. It'll end up light and fluffy. You can go ahead and add in a teaspoon of vanilla here. And then with your mixer on low speed, you can go ahead and add in 5 eggs, 1 at a time. You want to add 1 and then let it mix until you don't see any yellow streaks, and then you want to add another one and do this until you've used up all those 5 eggs. Trust me, if you add them all at once, they will not mix in really good. Okay, that's all combined, and I'm scraping the sides of the bowl down just to make sure I got everything. And now we're going to alternate by adding the dry ingredients along with 1 cup of half and half, or you can use regular milk. So you're going to add a little bit of the dry ingredients and then a little milk and then a little more dry ingredients and then continue. You get the picture. And I'm sure if you've made a pound cake before, you know. Y'all, I have a really good recipe for a pound cake that I need to share with y'all soon. Oh, and I've never tried a cream cheese pound cake, so I am anxious to try one of those. Now, you don't want to overmix anything here. You just want to mix it until it's combined. By the way, if you're new, I would really love to have you here. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. That way, you get notified of all my future videos. Okay, now we've got it ready to go in the bundt pan. And I greased my bundt pan with Crisco, and I sprayed it with nonstick spray. I use the Baker's Joy for every bundt cake I make. It has a little flour in it, so it really helps. And to get a little extra here, I did dust that pan with some cocoa powder. Oh, and my friend Jacqueline here mentioned dusting your pan with cake mix. And next time I make a bundt cake with cake mix, I'm going to have to give that a try. So thank you, Jacqueline. And with the cocoa powder, I just sifted it in. And then I turned the cake pan up sideways over the trash can and turned it until I got it all coated. And you do want to beat out the excess. Then you're just going to pour in that batter and smooth it out, and then it is ready to go in the oven. And this batter is very, very thick. I will tell you, I feel this a little too full. It did start to run over just in the center in the oven. But it was okay. I just threw a piece of foil on the rack below it to catch any drips. Oh, just a thought. Maybe if you're making this in a tube pan, it may all fit. And to bake it, I placed this in a cold oven and then turn the temperature on to 325, and it says to let it bake for 1.5 hours. But I checked mine after 75 minutes and it was done. And you can see where it ran over in the middle there. You'll want to let this cool for about 5 or 10 minutes, but no more. And then you're going to want to try to go ahead and get it out. And that crunchy little centerpiece in the middle there was delicious, by the way. I just took a little butter knife and ran it around the center there and around the outside, all the way around, just to kind of break it loose from the sides. Now it's ready to flip out onto a cake plate. Ta-da! It turned out absolutely perfect. And now that I'm thinking about it, I really wish I would have made this in a tube pan. Mainly because of the frosting. I just think it would be easier to frost. But here we are. I made it in a bundt pan, so it is what it is. But you're going to let that completely cool. Then we can go ahead and start on the frosting. And yep, I'm dragging my stand mixer back out for this. I'm going to tell you, I've really gotten some good use out of this thing. If you don't want to add the frosting, you don't necessarily have to. You could actually just dust it with sifted powdered sugar and cocoa powder, and it would be beautiful like that. But I'm making this frosting. So to that bowl there, I added 1 stick of softened butter and 4 tablespoons of cocoa powder. And I just used the regular Hershey's powder for this. I went ahead and mixed that until it was combined. Now I'm adding in the powdered sugar, and the recipe called for 1 box, and I had to Google it, and that's equal to 3 3/4 cup of powdered sugar. And I went ahead and started to mix this, and then you're also going to add in 1/4 cup of milk. And add it slowly, because you may not need it all, but I did. You just want to use the milk to get the frosting to the consistency that you like. And since this is a chocolate pound cake, you don't have to do chocolate frosting. You can leave the chocolate part out and just do regular buttercream. But if you ask me, I say go all the way with the chocolate. And usually I pipe the frosting on a bundt cake, kind of like they do at Nothing Bundt Cakes, where it's kind of like ribbons down the side. But this one had a lot of frosting, so I knew I was just going to have to add it all on. and I just did my best to make it look as good as I could. It does not have to be perfect. Hey, throw on some chopped pecans and nobody will even notice the frosting. But I was very happy with how it turned out. Y'all have to let me know, have you ever tried a chocolate pound cake? Do you like them? Or do you have a different recipe that I could maybe try? I did see one with cream cheese, so I may have to try that one next. This was absolutely delicious. It was dense, it was moist, it was full of chocolate flavor, and that frosting was out of this world good. This would be good to make for a family gathering, for holidays, for a potluck, or make it for yourself. I actually made 2, and I did share some with the family because we all love chocolate. We're going to make us some good old buttermilk biscuits. Here's the recipe I'm following. It's Mom's Buttermilk Biscuits, and it's very similar to the way I make biscuits. And I was really in the mood for some biscuits, so I figured I'd try this one. We're going to mix up the dry ingredients first. So in a large bowl, you're going to add in 2 cups of all-purpose flour, along with 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and I always sift mine, and half a teaspoon of baking soda. You see all those little clumps left? You do not want those in your biscuits. Oh, and I was supposed to add a half a teaspoon of salt, but I forgot. Now we're going to add in 1/4 cup of shortening, and I'm using the butter flavor, but you can use the regular and it'll be just fine. And we're going to cut this in, but I just stirred it around a little bit to get it coated in that flour where it was a little less messy, and then I started to break it up. And I know this is not the correct way to cut shortening into flour, but this is how I do it. And I rub it between my palms to get little thin sheets of that shortening and rub it between my fingers until it's all broke up. And sometimes I'll even take this bowl and pop it in the freezer to get it nice and cold before I add the rest. Now I'm adding in 3/4 of a cup of cold buttermilk. And I just stir it until it starts to come together. You don't want to overmix it. Mine still has a little bit of the flour in there, but we're about to need it, so it'll all mix in. I just laid down my silicone liner that I use on my cookie sheet, but you could also do this on a cutting board or you can do it on your counter. I did sprinkle on a little bit of flour so it doesn't stick. Make sure you get all that biscuit dough off your spoon there, and then you're just going to start kneading this. And I just kind of fold it over onto itself until it's all combined. And you'll want to do this multiple times. That's going to make them a little extra fluffy. Or make them rise a little higher. And with biscuits, if you've ever made them, it's kind of a trial and error thing. If they don't work out the first time, just keep on trying until you get it right. Now I've got it kneaded and folded really good, and I spread it out to about 1 inch thick. The recipe said a 1/2 inch, but I want to have some good biscuits here. And I think my cookie cutter is about a 2.5 inch size, but you can really make these however big or small you like. I wouldn't do them too much thicker than this though. And now I only got 3 out of there, but that's okay. I just re-rolled the rest. Now the rest of this batter is not going to come, or the rest of this dough is not going to come out as good as those first 3. I will tell you that. Unless there's a trick that you know that I don't. The first ones always come out good, and the second ones, they're okay. But I am not going to waste any of this biscuit dough. Even that last one there, I kind of shaped on my own. And a warning, when you make biscuits, your hands will get a bit messy. I place these on a cookie sheet, and I'm going to bake them at 450 for 10 to 15 minutes until they are golden brown. And you can tell the ones I did first and the ones I re-rolled. This one turned out really good. I was really proud of that one, and so did this one. But you can see those couple on the front there, not so good, but they were still delicious. And I always brush my biscuits with melted butter when they're done, just to add a little extra flavor. And I had to show you a close-up of this one. It was my favorite. It came out the best. And you can butter these or put some jelly in the middle or even add some good old country ham in there. Or you can even make you some sausage gravy to serve on top. Biscuits are a really good thing to know how to make. But if you have trouble with them, please don't be ashamed to get those frozen Mary B's biscuits. They are really good too. But these turned out delicious. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.